Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of me reviewing series and movies. Today, I'm going to be reviewing a movie that I watched this past weekend. It's called Nueva Orden, New Order. And I saw a little bit about why the name is called New Order. I guess it has to do a little bit with the Nazi and Hitler's ideology of trying to build a new order. Now, this movie is a Mexican movie. It's Mexican made, and it basically takes place in Mexico, right? I think if you know a little bit about Mexican movies or the Mexican cinema, you'll see that a lot of them are your typical rom-com, right? Your typical romantic comedy movies or some type of dumb drama going on. But they're really oriented towards comedy. In Mexico, they criticize them a lot. They say that they don't have substance, that they don't have value. I personally think they're kind of interesting because they at times it reflects the Mexican culture. Um, but yeah, I mean, I know where the critics are coming from. They're all very genetic. They have the same formula. Um, Now, my opinion on Nuevo Orden, I think is I completely love this movie. I mean, in the beginning of the movie starts off really slow, right? But even the beginning, which is slow, I think it's still good. It maintains, it keeps your attention. I mean, you do not want to like look away. I think it's categorized as kind of a thriller. In the beginning, there's this like protest going on, and I mean, you don't really know why there's a protest, but I mean, if we really look at Mexico City always has protests about one thing or another. So this protest kind of gets out of hand. There's violence, there's people injured, and then we move into a hospital, and in the hospital they're taking people out of the hospital or basically they're moving them to make way for the new people that are coming in, with gunshot wounds and all bleeding and everything. um and that's like the beginning, right? Then you cut to this other scene of a party, and there's like these rich folks, right? They're like having a party. Money, they're all giving money to the newlyweds, because it's about the party is about the newlyweds, like this dude and a girl that just got married. They're all having a good time. It kind of reminded me of The Godfather, in which you have like this first scene where it's like very slow, very dark, and I'm talking about the lighting, and then you have like this party, right? Like this, like the opposite side of the coin. And in this party, well, it's just like the rich society in Mexico, right? Like you think, well, why are they like, the country is the way it is. It's a piece of shit, and everybody's like, poor and starving, and there's a lot of violence and all this going on. And then you have like the high class, completely ignorant. I think there were some parts in the movie that weren't kind of developed, or that were badly developed. Like the mom in this one scene, she steps out into the street, right? And she just senses something, right? Like, I thought that was really cool. But then nothing else happens with the mom. Eventually she gets killed. But like when she stepped out, like I kind of understood her, because I was like, I sometimes do that, right? Like you go outside, or you just look outside your window, like, trying to identify if there's anything wrong in the ambient, in like, in your neighborhood or in the city or whatever. And yeah, seeing as how it is Mexico is really violent, has a lot of violence, a lot of crazy cases, right? And that's why I really like the ending of this movie. um so basically, there's this party going on. This guy who is like one of the he's the husband of one of the one of the people that they moved in the hospital, right? He goes there. He hasn't worked there in like 7 or 8 years or something like that. And he goes to them, to the rich people, to ask them for money, right? So at first, like, like he needs like 200,000 pesos, which is like a lot of money. And at first, the mom talks to him. The mom ends up giving him some money, 35,000, not everything. And this guy just stands there, man. Like he just doesn't leave. Then he talks to the daughter. The daughter kind of like gets, into this like obsession, like trying to help. And her brother tells her like, and tells him, the guy too, like, fuck off, like I'm giving you like 5,000 pesos and that's it. That's all you're getting, asshole. And he's like really mean about it. So you kind of see like this, like the differences, right? And like the shades of the rich, right? There are rich that are like, neutral, will be like, all right, I'll help you out, but not with everything. There are other rich that are like, well, I'll help you out, and there are other rich that are like assholes. So they kind of explore the rich people, but they don't really explore the poor people. I think that's because we kind of already know what poor people are about. Um, and yeah, like I said, we don't really know like what they do. We don't really know what the protest is about. And I think they could have talked about what the protest was about, or like what the rich people, like what they did for a living. But I don't think that's important. I think that's generic, and I think that's like a wink, or that's a kind of like, that's kind of like saying, uh it doesn't matter. There are always people protesting about whatever, right? There are always people bitching, complaining, something's not right all the time. And there are always rich people, right? Whether they got rich because they're descendants, or because they're first generation rich or whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of like, that's irrelevant. Like the central topic is another one. So the girl ends up leaving the party trying to get more money. Well, she actually gets some money, but then the guy that went there asking for money, he ends up leaving. And when the girl finds out that he left because she told him to wait, he gets this guy, like one of the guys that works there, because they got bodyguards, they got people, maids and stuff working for them, for all the rich people. She ends up leaving, right? And in that moment, like when she leaves, basically, like a couple minutes after that, like the protest basically starts fucking, like the people that were protesting, they end up arriving to the house. The people that are working for the rich people turn against them. They start killing them. They start stealing their shit. They end up killing like almost everybody, right? It's very gruesome. The movie is very violent. And I mean, just when you think they're not gonna do it, like your typical standoff, right? Where like someone's pointing a gun and they don't shoot, right? They just talk, and then they end up not even shooting. Nah, man, in this movie, that's what I liked about this movie. That in this movie, like, the guy points a gun at the father, like one of the first guys that gets there to the house. And they're like, the father's all like, all right, like, let's negotiate. Nah, man, like, just fucking kills him. And I thought that was, well, he doesn't kill him. He actually he shoots him, and he ends up not dying later on. But they kill like, the wives. They kill like all the people there, basically, most of the people. And they steal, right? So then, ironically, the girl that ends up leaving, that was actually in danger because she left to where the protest was, she ends up like being safe, from all the mayhem that the protesters are doing. And yeah, they kind of get into this like eat the rich type of thing, where it's like, fuck the rich, we're gonna take from the rich. And then the girl, like, is out in the street. Obviously she runs into the protesters in the street. They start throwing green paint. There's a lot of green paint going on, and I think the green paint is kind of, I thought it was kind of like a symbol, but then it was just like the paint that they were using, right? Like green paint. Like I thought it was kind of related to money or life, or I don't really know why they use green, right? But yeah, she ends up getting caught up in the protest. She has to basically go into this guy's house, the guy that she was with. Um, and then the military end up showing up, Obviously, like the whole country or the whole area goes into martial law. So then the military take over, and the guy ends up coming out, I think, the next morning, and they end up finding out that the the girl, this girl that left the party, one of the rich people that wanted to help the guy at the beginning, they end up finding out that she's there. So they say, okay, we're gonna take you back to your, to your parents, to your family. And when they take her, them when like they take her away, right? Like the military, they steal her things, right? They steal her cell phone, and they end up taking her to like this concentration camp where they have like the rich people, right? Like they I think it was like a part of the military that was dedicating themselves to kidnapping people and then asking their families for money, right? Because they interrogate them, they treat them like shit. They videotape them like torturing them, and then they send a video clip to their families asking for money. Yeah, it gets like into this whole, like, while at the same time, the neighborhood, the poor neighborhood, is like in lockdown, where this guy and the girl were. um I thought that was kind of weak. I didn't really understand why, after, because supposedly like weeks and months go by, and the girl is still like kidnapped, all these rich people are like kidnapped, and the rich family ends up moving somewhere else. I thought that was kind of loose at that part. I was kind of like, what's going on? You didn't really know what was going to happen next. And I felt like the writing there got kind of weak. But then eventually, they tried to negotiate like her release, like the family, and then along with the guy that was with her, like the family. And then, like the military, um, like these guys are basically, trying to get the money out of the family. So then they end up not being able to get the money. Well, they were going to get the money, but like then, like, see, this is where it gets complicated, because there's like you got the military, and then you got like a subdivision of the military that's doing this kidnapping stuff, and then you have like two or three people in that subdivision that wanna like extort them for their own benefit, for their own money, right? So they say, we'll help you out if you get us like 800 pesos or 800,000 pesos, right? So then these guys are like, yeah, they give them the money, and then like the next day they say, now we want 1 million, and they're like, what the hell? So then they end up, not being able to come up with the money. Well, like the family of the girl wanted to come up with the money, but they just blame the poor people, right? The people that were there, and they end up like getting arrested. And then like one of my favorite part is basically when like the military, like the boss of the military, who was in contact with the rich family, who was basically like, yeah, we'll find your daughter and all this stuff. um he ends up talking to these like two or three like military dudes, and he just fucking arrests them, and he's like, all right. Like the first time that he sees them, he's like, how's the business going? They know they're fucked because they're doing this kidnapping shit without authority, and he just found out that they're trying to get money off that. um so then he ends up finding out where they had, like the general of the military, he ends up finding out where they were. He goes there, recovers the girl, basically kills everybody there, kills all the military, that subdivision of the military, burns all of their bodies and shit. And then this guy takes the girl to the dude's house, to the poor dude's house. You're like, oh man, like he saved her, like he's a hero. He's gonna bring her back to her dad's. He ends up killing her, and then he tells the poor dude to pick up the gun, like the guy that was with her from the beginning of the movie. He's like, pick up the gun. Then he shoots him, kills him in the head, shoots him in the head. And then they make it look like he did have her kidnapped, you know, and like all that shit that was going on with the whole kidnapping shit is just, you know, forgotten. Like we don't know what the fuck that was about, because I don't think they really did. And it talks about like the complexities, of like Mexico, how it's not so black and white. It's not so, good and bad. It's like, and how you can, like, even within situations, you will, like, situations will be created, and inside those situations, other situations will be created. It's so complex, so delicious. I thought that was like mind blowing, right? Because yeah, you're kind of asking yourself, like this guy, the military general who was in contact with the father, with the rich family. He has the daughter. He can just give the daughter back to the father, right, to the family. But he doesn't. To cover like his people's tracks. It's complex, man. Because if you really think about it, you're like, why would he do that? Well, to cover his tracks, right? Um, and yeah, basically, like, fucking everybody ends up dying. Um, and the movie ends with that. I mean, it really makes you think about, like, and maybe not even in Mexico, like all over the world, like how some shit, happens, and you just hear about it on the surface, like, oh, this happened, but you don't really know, like, all of the things that, I mean, this is a fictional story. It's not true, right? But I think it was a really great Mexican movie because it moves away from, your typical rom-com, your typical stupid comedy movies. And yeah, like it takes a hard look at, Mexican society, Mexican politics, Mexican violence, and just everything. I highly recommend this movie. If you haven't watched it, I think it's a really entertaining movie. There are some parts, like this. Why were they still in martial law for, like, weeks, months, um, type of thing that just kind of didn't really make sense. But beyond that, that movie is, I would say, like, from 10, it's an 8. It's a really good movie, a really good watch. The ending is, kind of raw. You're kind of like, oh damn, that's just fucking fucked up because everybody basically dies, like all the main protagonists. And I like that. That's something that I really like, it when movies experiment. They go beyond their typical formula, of like, oh, there's trouble, but the good guy wins, or they always survive. Like, I like it when, they like bad things happen, right? Like, kind of like, yeah, when they don't do the regular formulaic endings or structure of stories or movies. So yeah, if you haven't watched it, I recommend it, and it's on Prime Video, and or if you could get it anywhere else, yeah, pretty good movie from 2020. And that's all I got for now. If you want me to watch or review a movie or a series, just let me know, and I'll give you my opinion on it. All right, till next time, peace out.